Hi, everybody. My name is Suzi. I'm Relationships Development Manager for 67 Bricks. We're a data-driven software partner for standards and regulatory organizations and for scholarly publishers. We work closely with MarkLogic and have integrated MarkLogic technology for a number of our customers. So first, just wanted to say thanks to MarkLogic for inviting us to present today. The topic that I'll be talking about is tools for digital acceleration. This presentation is about acceleration from a whole business point of view, rather than being a specific case study or technical discussion. The session objective is to introduce you to our digital transformation toolkit, which we use when helping our customers accelerate change within their business. And the reason why we think this area is important is because the more clients we work with, the more we realize that transformation is not just a change to a company's digital presence or to a piece of their technology, but it's really more about cultural change within the business. And digital transformation is really about business transformation. So before we launch into all of that, I just want to take a moment to tell you a bit about who we are and what it is that we do. 67 Bricks are an award-winning software development partner. We've won a number of awards, but the most recent was earlier this month when we were selected as runner-up in the British Data Awards 2021. The British Data Awards are an annual award celebrating data success stories, and we were nominated in 2 categories, SME of the Year and Professional Services Firm of the Year. And we were the runner-up in the Professional Services category. So those awards are all about data, and we are a data-driven consultancy. And unpicking data challenges is really at the heart of what we do in building data-driven technology solutions, primarily for publishers, but also for B2B information providers, and as mentioned, standards and regulatory organizations. Today, I'm talking mostly about the work that we do for publishers, but we've also applied the tools I'll talk about to other types of organizations. So we have particular expertise in building machine learning and AI capabilities for many of our customers and in developing custom platform solutions for publishers. We're based in Oxford. We have a team of approximately 40 software technologists and publishing experts. Our solutions are built in an agile way, and we're technology agnostic. Although we do have extensive experience with some technologies, like, for example, MarkLogic, and generally we deploy to AWS. But our approach overall is to select the best tools for the job and to make sensible technology decisions based on the individual needs of the publisher and their existing technical capabilities. So where do we fit in when it comes to the digital transformation process? Well, with regards to publishers, often when they come to us, they think they have an idea of where they want to go or where they want to get to, but they're really uncertain how to get there. So that's where we step in as a data-driven software consultancy. We help publishers transform from being essentially print online providers, serving up large quantities of content, to becoming digital product companies offering real value to their end users. Most of what we do helps publishers take control over their digital delivery and move away from software as a service type solutions. The publishers we work with, they've already made a transition from offering print products to basically what's a print online product, usually through a vendor platform. And some publishers, quite a few of them, think that that's it, that their digital transformation is complete once their entire corpus is accessible online. But over time, the publishers realized that the print online approach really following that change is slow, and the platform doesn't really do what they need it to. So vendor platforms that host publisher content, they generally don't support the publisher's ambition to deliver content in new ways, or at least in the new ways that the publisher would like to present the content. So it's hard for them to introduce new business models, and effectively the publisher becomes limited by their technology rather than enabled by it. So that's where we step in. Our goal is really to help publishers take control of their technology. We enable them to build and test new business models and approaches to content delivery. And we help publishers transform from being publishers to becoming product companies. And that means that they're able to offer, support new offerings and unlock new revenue streams. I'm going to talk a little bit about a few examples of how we do this later in the presentation by looking at a couple of projects that we've worked on. But one thing to note is that as a company, we don't sell a product, and we're not interested in selling products. We provide a service, and that service enables the publishers to sell their own products. For this reason, we work on a consultancy basis, usually as an extension to the publisher's own internal business and technology teams, and help guide them through the digital transformation process. Or in cases where clients we work with don't have a technology team, which is still the case in many instances, especially for scholarly publishers. We work as an extension of their business, and effectively we are their technology team. So just quickly, this is a snapshot of some of the publishers we've worked with. We have multiple year ongoing relationships with some of these customers. For example, Emerald Publishing, Royal Society of Chemistry. Our work with standards and regulatory organizations is primarily around building custom machine learning applications for large volume informational databases. This helps them to provide just more useful ways for their end users to access and interact with content. We're small, we're a lean, dynamic, and nimble organization. So we often get involved early on when a company starts their digital transformation process. So we often help publishers work out strategically what products and platforms need to be built and the specific features that they require to support those needs. Being in the business that we're in, we do a lot of thinking about why digital transformation is important. And we closely monitor what's happening in the publishing space. So at the moment, we're seeing 4 key drivers behind the why for digital transformation for publishers. These are different from the 4 talent areas that you see on the slide shown here, but the 4 key drivers for transformation. The first is open access. The governance and technology needed to make content open access has really accelerated a reduction in traditional revenue models, for example, traditional subscription models. And this is driving a need for transformation. Secondly, there's pressure from large technology companies like Google, who are moving in on the publishing space and starting to do so with regard to academic publishing too. The third driver is smaller startups. The new startups founded by digital natives, bringing entirely new understanding of digital and a digital mentality to their businesses from the beginning. That's really rattling publishers and prompting them towards digital transformation. And the fourth driver is that there's an increased understanding and messaging at the leadership level. This messaging is that a digital first approach is important to the survival and success of business. Now, having said that, most publishers and quite a few of the other companies that we work with still see digital transformation as being a task for the IT department. This is why it's probably no surprise to chief information officers that business culture is what holds back digital transformation. One report by an executive search and interim management specialist called the Savannah Group found that 65% of CIOs reported that business culture was the main inhibitor to change. The same report mentioned that 50% of respondents said legacy technologies or business processes were prohibiting transformation. So when we talk to publishers about this kind of wholesale business transformation, we help them to ask the question you see here. What kind of organization do you want to be? What you see under this question are icons symbolizing the different tools that we use to help our customers understand the changes that need to happen. I'm just going to briefly touch on each tool. And collectively, these tools can help the business to accelerate change and move them forward with their transformation projects. We apply the tools on a case-by-case basis because clients come to us with their own unique needs and at different times. Some might come to us before they know what they want or what they need to do. Others come to us once they know what they want, but they haven't started. And then others might come to us when they've started development on a product, but it's not progressing or running efficiently, or they might even come to us when their projects have completely stalled or failed, and we kind of help to put them back on track. So whatever the case, when we work with clients, we draw from this toolkit and help define what's needed to guide the client we're working with to take transformative action. The other thing I wanted to say is that the toolkit doesn't need to be followed in any particular order, but some of the tools can work together and can be used ultimately to build an outcome-driven roadmap, which we'll take a look at later on in the presentation. So yeah, I'm just going to look through each of these different tools. These are just the icons representing them. And this is the list of the case studies that I'm going to draw upon while looking at the transformation tools. Emerald is a scholarly publisher that we helped to become a leading digital-first publisher, and we launched a new delivery platform with them in the autumn of 2019. BMJ, which is transforming into a digital product company, we've worked with them in developing a central content engine using MarkLogic for their best practice and comorbidities products. And De Gruyter, which is an international publisher based in Berlin. They are currently undergoing digital transformation. The first part of that transformation was a new delivery platform, which we launched in February of this year. And we're now working with them on other aspects of whole business transformation. So this slide shows the first tool in our toolkit. This is an approach we use to help publishing clients, and it's based on the Strategizer portfolio management tool. The business model portfolio tool enables the publisher to map their business models to understand where risks and opportunities lie. So it basically shows products based on the risk and return of each product and that product's business model. So effectively what we do with the publisher is categorize each product. So in the top right-hand quadrant are the existing live business models. And in the bottom left, you'll see new products and business ideas. So the idea, once the product is mapped, is to then develop a strategy to move the models up and to the right. Before developing a strategy, though, it's really important to understand the current direction of travel of the different products. Whether a product is increasing or decreasing in terms of risk and in terms of its business model contributes to our analysis when we look at business model portfolio. And really by taking this whole picture view, a publisher can assess if it's got a balanced portfolio, where improvements in digitization might be needed, and where they should focus their time and investment. An example of where we've applied this kind of approach is for Emerald. Emerald first approached 67bricks because they wanted more control of their digital assets. They wanted to build a delivery platform that made researchers and readers' lives easier and wanted to move away from the traditional norms of publishing platforms. But when they first came to us, they had literally hundreds of requirements and hundreds of features that they wanted to include. Their biggest challenge at the time was prioritizing what was important and what to focus on. we helped them to hone in on the use cases that were most important, and this is what we focused on for the initial launch. During the process, Emerald was able to transform its digital operations in order to rapidly respond to user feedback and make use of analytics and data technologies so that the platform could continuously evolve to meet the changing behavior and needs. And again, so that they could focus on what was most important, rather than getting distracted by all the features that they initially wanted. And then since the site was launched, and it launched in late 2019, we've continued the agile development process to launch additional features. Now, more than a year on from the initial release, we're engaged with them in a different kind of way. It's a multiple year ongoing strategic planning and implementation project to help them validate and test entirely new business ideas. So another tool that we use from our toolbox is the product value pyramid. This is just a visualization of the tool showing what we aim to do, which is to help publishers move their products up the pyramid. At the bottom level are raw content assets. This might be, for example, the content that sits on a traditional hosted platform. And then at the next level, we talk about making the content more granular, adding data to it to make it smarter. The next level, we're moving away from content items and thinking about what it is that the user needs to know, all the while moving up the data becomes more and more refined to the point where at the top of the pyramid, this is where, based on what we know has happened, we can predict what's going to happen next, and that provides the optimal user experience. So I just have a short case study here for BMJ best practice to show how we've helped them to move up the product value pyramid. When BMJ first came to us, this is their best practice product. It was losing market share. The product was filled with lots of information, but it was buried in a huge corpus of monolithic documents, and unhappy users couldn't easily find what they needed. I mean, basically BMJ best practice was sitting right at the bottom of the product value pyramid. This is a familiar situation for many publishers. They might have a hosted platform from a third-party vendor where even the smallest changes are difficult to make, and they carry a lot of risk. And this means that the publishers can't efficiently develop or improve their product. They basically just have little, or in some cases, no control. In some cases, publishers don't even have their own content, because what happens is it goes directly from the data conversion vendor to the platform vendor. And in order to access their own content, the publishers have to pay high fees for a large data dump or scheduling continuous data dump. And this makes it really difficult and in some cases impossible for the publisher to think about building new products, even if they wanted to. They're basically stuck at the bottom of the pyramid. So here you can see some of the areas that we focused on in our work with BMJ. On a consultancy level, we carried out business analysis of BMJ's requirements and built the technical architecture. BMJ had an XML database in BaseX. The first thing we did in working with them was to compare BaseX with other suppliers. We looked at Exist, MarkLogic, and BaseX, and we made a recommendation for MarkLogic because it was the best tool for the job. We then built a new system using MarkLogic to work with smaller fragments. We implemented a new content model, and the super long monographs that we were working with were broken down into smaller fragments. We did versioning of fragments and introduced an audit trail for changes, and both of these are really important for medical content. And we used MarkLogic for search as well. And the new approach has shown really strong improvements and strong impact for BMJ. On the one hand, the new tool has meant that BMJ can have a more distributed editorial team, which certainly has been really important over the past year with people working remotely. And BMJ have been able to revolutionize their production process, which has led to an 80% increase in capacity and a 40% reduction in costs. These figures are pre-pandemic, so we expect the efficiencies have increased since. And also BMJ have launched another product that uses the underlying system called comorbidities. So on from BMJ, we'll now take a look at capability mapping. Capability mapping is a tool we use to help clients understand what are the kinds of features and products that they want or need to build. We really like this tool because what we've seen amongst publishers is that they often come to us with a list of capabilities they want. But when we try to understand why they want those capabilities, it's often a response of because that's how others do it, or because that's the way it's always been done. And we really try to turn this thinking around and work with publishers to consider what is the problem that they're trying to solve, or what is it that they really want to achieve. And capability mapping helps them to do that. So our approach at 67 Bricks is always to start by understanding the overall objectives of the business before recommending, designing, or developing any use cases or any technology solution. Throughout the capability mapping process, we use customer experience and qualitative and quantitative data to help us understand and integrate data into the decision making. So at the top of this diagram, you can see the business drivers. We map the business drivers to use cases for features, which you can see on the second tier. And then these are features that would then meet the business needs. And then we map capabilities to the features. And this is what you see on the bottom tier. Mapping the capabilities enables us to work with the publisher to see which capabilities provide the greatest value and which are most critical to the success of the business. We use capability mapping for existing as well as new capabilities. And another important part of this process is thinking about what to say no to, or what to stop doing. And that can be really challenging. And we find that to be the case, especially for publishers who may have already made a lot of investment in something they've already done, or are stuck in a particular mindset of what is important or what's been important in the past. So our next tool in our toolbox is the target architecture diagram. This is a high-level diagram that really just shows our general architectural approach. It's helpful for each publisher to update this for their particular products and workflows. It's amazing to us how many publishers rely on external vendor architectures without having their own vision of their own technical architecture. And often when we start working with publishers, we discover this gap. And we use this diagram as a starting point to define a target architecture for the publisher to own and to move towards. So all of this planning work and the tools we've discussed so far to this point come together whenever we work with a publisher to build a product roadmap. The roadmap is all about visibility and transparency within the organization and is about managing expectation. It's really easy to get distracted, so this is about focusing on what we are going to do. So at the bottom level of our roadmap tool is digitization. This is about turning everything in the customer's business into data. And digitize sits at the bottom of the visualization because it's the data that is going to drive the organization forward, or in this case, upwards, in the road mapping process towards the solution. The next level, improve, is about using the data to enhance and extend the current business models. And then the third level, understand, is about gaining a better understanding of users, what they want to do, how they want to do it. The next level is about the evolution of new business models. This might include introducing new models for innovation, embarking on a product development, or sharing new approaches that help the publisher test and implement new ideas. And then at the top is reshape. And this is about organizational change. It's about suggested approaches for making a commitment to digital transformation and changing the culture of the organization as a whole. And the last tool I wanted to take a look at is related to the roadmap tool. And this is to look at the waves within the roadmap. This is basically applying a build, measure, learn cycle, where the first arrow represents build, the second is measure, and the third is learn. The build, measure, learn process is important because it enables the publisher to build a roadmap that's outcome driven. What is an outcome-driven roadmap? It is, as it says, a way of representing the roadmap based on what the outcome is, rather than what the feature is. An outcome-driven roadmap is based on a goal that the publisher is trying to achieve, rather than the steps or milestones required to achieve that goal. So shifting away from a feature-driven roadmap, which is what most software vendors use, and the vendors who work with publishers use, towards an outcome-driven roadmap, which represents what the publisher needs. This enables the publisher to really digitally transform and empower them to go through that transformation process. An outcome-driven roadmap gives context to the items in the roadmap. Everything in the outcome-driven roadmap is there for a reason. And this, we find, really helps the other stakeholders in the business who aren't necessarily closely involved in the technology transformation understand why something is there. And it helps the organization as a whole to measure goals and generate new business models across the business. So DeGruyter is our example of an organization that we've helped and that we've been working with to build an outcome-driven roadmap. And this really, using the outcome-driven roadmap has enabled us to manage and prioritize key milestones based on their importance when it comes to achieving an overall objective. It's really by thinking about end goals rather than just the list of deliverables. All the stakeholders at DeGruyter are able to get involved and focus attention on achieving those objectives. Like with capability mapping, this tool also helps to shine a light on features that may be thought of as necessary, but when looked at against the outcomes required, it shows that the features may not necessarily need developing or redeveloping at all. And this has really helped DeGruyter to avoid developing those features that users might not want or that might not be needed going forward, and to avoid making bad product investment choices. So just quickly want to look at what are some of the features on an outcome-driven roadmap. An outcome-driven roadmap has a vision and a goal, and it is, of course, outcome-driven. It's a live working artifact that changes over time. It identifies capabilities, activities, use cases, trial of business ideas, features. It includes clear and measurable milestones mapped against the outcomes. And it identifies a prioritized timeline incorporating the development of new products, services, and capabilities, as well as the improvement of existing products and services. And most critically and importantly, it is the publisher's own roadmap based on their needs and the needs of their business and end users. So that is the end of my presentation. You can see our website and my contact details here. Please do be in touch if you have any questions or wish to discuss how 67 Bricks might be able to help your organization accelerate its digital transformation. So thanks everyone for your time. I'll now hand back over to James.
And I think what Suzi was talking to really speaks to why we wanted to do this event. Sorry, let me just move some of these things out of my way. I think talking through the process that Suzi went through and some of those tools, I think really highlights, how you can get return on investment, where you need to focus your effort, and how you want to prioritize that move and that march towards, digital transformation and accelerating it. I think we know that all our customers are talking about these things and wanting to move in that direction. So we really hope that this series of events has sort of inspired you and given you food for thought. And hopefully we've given you, some ideas about where to move with next in that process. And someone like 67 Bricks can obviously help you look at that roadmap and the way forward. So I just want to summarize, what we've covered, where we've gone through in these events. I think the first event, looking at those taxonomies and ontologies, start small. I think that's a really important thing. You don't need to make this too complicated. Get access to a taxonomy tool like Graphify, like MarkLogic, Pool Party, and start to build something out and see how you can take it and where you can go with it. And there really is huge potential there with the ontologies. And then pull it into MarkLogic, and start to relate some data to it and see what you can do. And one of the important pieces of feedback we had from the first event was that people wanted a more technical deep dive. So look out for some invites coming in for an event next month where we'll actually get hands-on and we'll show how to take that taxonomy that we'll build in something like Graphify, how to manage it, how to export it, how to bring it into MarkLogic, and how to start associating it to your content, and looking at things like query expansion, which you saw Imran demoing when he clicked the box and it showed you all the ways that it was expanding the search based on the ontology. Entity extraction, there's some great tools there from DataVid, MarkLogic. There's already tools built inside MarkLogic to help you do that too. So, take a look at some of those existing content that you've got, how we can classify it, how you can add the entities to it, and the value that brings you. And hopefully, today's sparked lots of ideas, different ways that you can use the knowledge graphs and maybe things you hadn't considered before. So we really hope this has been useful. Please do fill in the poll and give us some feedback. We really appreciate it, and give us some direction on where you want to go next. And if there's anything you've missed from this session or previous sessions, reach out to us at csm@marklogic.com, and we're happy to send you recordings so you can go back and review everything. Philip, I'm not sure if we've had any Q&A come through on the chat. But if not, if anybody's got any questions, please do feel free to come off mute and ask away.
We did have one question come across, which was sort of exploring use cases elsewhere in the scientific community, not just within pharma, but actually involved in sort of nuclear physics or materials research. And we've got a couple of customers that we do that with, taking sort of large sensor data as well as unstructured content and combining that to help them with their research to find findings quicker. So yeah, there was some pointed questions on that. There is a link actually to one of the use cases that I'll put into the chat window that was quite interesting, which was our work with the Livermore National Laboratory, Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. So if you're interested on that one, then please do check that out. Apart from that, that was about it.
Yeah, and I would say, we've touched on pharma and life sciences, but we've got lots of customers in lots of verticals. So if there's something here that you think is interesting, please do reach out to us. There's lots of other stuff we can talk about that perhaps we can't always share on a WebEx, but lots of other practical things that we can give insight to in other areas. So if you are working on something, please do reach out.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add, we definitely have very large chemical companies using us in a very similar way to pharma. I'm working with some of the largest ones. And we also have large food companies that are working in a similar sort of R&D manner.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate your time. Thank you for staying with us. And yeah, we hope to see you all at our next event.